Well, this story is about last summer when I went to a campsite in the mountains with some friends. That day, the weather was already nice and the stars were so beautiful. We had a barbecue, played guitar, and it was a great night. But, around 3 a.m., I heard heavy footsteps coming from outside our tent. It's like a giant walking. But there was probably no one else at the campsite except us. So there was no way other hikers would be wandering around at night like this, right? Is it a wild animal? I used my headlights to illuminate the outside, but it was pitch black and I couldn't see anything. But the heavy footsteps were getting closer and closer, and I could already hear them right outside the tent. We all held our breath and waited for the footsteps to pass. But then we heard a very trembling voice from outside the tent asking, "Are you having fun camping?" The voice sounded human, but somehow eerie, like the dead were speaking. We were so scared that none of us could make a sound. I keep hearing that voice asking, "What are you doing there?" We couldn't even step out of the tent anymore, and we continued to tremble until morning. Well, when I came out of my tent in the morning, I found huge handprints all over the ground around it. I don't know if it was blood or something else, but the bright red handprints looked non-human sized. A nearby tree had a swaying branch in the shape of a crooked hand. As if to say, goodbye, was this the work of a wild animal? Or was it the work of something more sinister? We swore we would never go back to that campsite again. But the fear wasn't over yet. I thought I had calmed down. I realized that one of my friends was missing. Last night, we were all supposed to be in the tent. But we all hurriedly called out to each other and started searching the forest, calling out his name. After several hours of searching, I finally found him, but he was sitting with his back against a tree and wouldn't look at me. It was cold when I held his hand, and when I turned him around, we both froze. His eyes were completely white and red liquid was coming out of his mouth. Ever since then, we haven't even been able to talk about what really happened that night. I don't know if it was just an illusion or if there was something other than us. But when his eyes turned white and he whispered, "I want you to come back," we ran down the mountain. After we descended the mountain, we swore to each other that we would never go to the mountain again, but sometimes I dream about that day. And every time I think of his white eyes and red mouth. It's been a year since then, and he's been in that mountain hospital and hasn't said a word. No one knows what happened to us or if something was watching us that night. But one thing's for sure, I don't want to go back to that campsite again. Even if it's just a scary story.